All right, so yeah, today is October 3rd, 2024, and today we're going to be going through Microsoft Excel. So some of you may have used Excel before, some of you may not. Excel is a very powerful platform that we use and most businesses use, most hospitals, just about every organization that you can think of uses Microsoft Excel. It's a great way to organize information in tables. So that would be rows. So this is a row here, right? Rows go left to right, and then columns going up and down. So in this case right here, we're going to start with just like a little bit of a warm-up exercise. So I'll ask for you guys a little bit of help. I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 volunteers, and I'll just take some information from you and put into this table that we're looking at today. Does anyone want to go first? Don't all hurry. How about I knew you were gonna go first. Thank you, Linda. So we'll go with you first. I already know everyone's names because I see them over here on our participant list. If you don't mind, Linda, about what time did you wake up today?
I woke up about 5:30 a.m.
Okay, I'm gonna
I don't
say
like it, but I did.
I hear that. I hear that. I'm gonna say I'm gonna just do 5 for the purposes of what we're doing. I'm just gonna stay with whole numbers today.
That's
Okay.
fine.
So 5 a.m. Did you eat breakfast? Yes or no?
Yes.
So I'm gonna put a 1 for yes. Okay. And then number of classes. How many classes do you think you've attended with us at Digital Navigation?
In person,
Just total. And like how many different classes you think you've
real, I'll just
attended?
say 10.
10. Perfect. All right. 10. Perfect. All right. Who's next? Let's get. I'm gonna go down the list here. Asha, would you mind sharing?
Hello.
Hi, Asha. Thank you for coming on for just a second and unmuting. Just a couple questions for you as we fill out this table. Do you mind sharing approximately like what time did you wake up this morning?
7.
7. And then did you eat breakfast?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to put a 0 for no, a 1 for yes. And then how many classes have you attended approximately with us?
5.
5. Perfect. All right, thank you. Let's see who's next here on my list. I've got Bernadetta. All right, Bernadetta, what time did you wake up this morning? About
8 o'clock.
8. Okay, and then did you eat breakfast today?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to put a 0 for no. And then number of classes that you've taken with us, approximately.
I think 6.
6. Perfect. And then let's go to Rebecca, also known as Becca. Okay. What time did you wake up, Becca?
6.
6. All right. And breakfast, yes or no?
Yes.
1 for yes. And then number of classes you've taken with us.
I think 5.
5. Awesome. And then we got one more. Let's see. I'm trying to see who else was on here. Eddie Richards, do you mind unmuting and sharing a little bit of information with us? Or anyone who hasn't spoken up yet? I need one more person to just volunteer some information. Margaret, Roby. There's Margaret.
Yeah,
What time did you wake up this morning, Margaret?
I woke up at 9.
9. All right. Did you eat breakfast?
Oh, yes, I did.
I love it. I love the you're like, oh yes. And then how many classes do you think you've taken with us approximately?
This is the third one.
Got it. And so 3. Thank you for sharing that. As you can see here, this is like a normal way. I'm sure many of you in the past have probably taken the time and like created something like this, maybe a table, and you just scratch it out on a piece of paper or something. and it's a way for you to organize information. And I want to just highlight that, like on the rows, and again, rows go left to right. So like this is Linda's row and her information. So all of the information on that row is typically related to the person or the entity to the far left. So in this case, Linda, and the rest of this is information about Linda, the time she woke up, the breakfast she ate, the number of classes. So it's data about the individual on the left. Same thing with Asha and Bernadetta. The row has information about that person. And again, rows go left to right. And then columns contain information of the same value. So for instance, number of classes, 10, 5, 6. And so here, number of classes, but it's by individual, right? So we have all the numbers here. We have who ate breakfast, who didn't, and then we have all the different wake up times here. So I'm going to turn this into a table in Excel here pretty shortly, but essentially this is what Excel does, but at a much higher level. It's pretty exciting because Excel can do math for you, which is really nice. It is part of the Microsoft Office suite, also known as Office 365. So if you ever purchase and go to Microsoft.com, well, actually, let's go there really quick. There we go. Microsoft.com. So this is how you would potentially purchase Microsoft Excel or the entire suite, which would include Word, Excel, PowerPoint, things like that. So if you were just going to purchase it for your home, you would just come here to Microsoft.com. Notice I clicked on Microsoft 365, and then you can just click on Home, because you just want it maybe for your home and your personal use. And let's see what their packages look like. Yeah, so here are the main things: Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. Outlook is like an email. You may or may not need that. But most people, if you're going to use the productivity things, something like, let's see, Microsoft 365 Basic is for one person. You can use it on multiple devices, and it looks like it only comes with the cloud and with Outlook right here. $69.99 a year. You get access to all of the programs. So Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Cloud, off Microsoft Outlook, and some other video editing and note taking and Microsoft Teams, things like that. So that's about $70 a year. And then of course they have one over here where you can do it for 6 people. I think this is the one my family has because we have our kids use our Microsoft Office package because they have homework and they have to do different things and do write-ups and use Excel. And so we have them all set up. And so our family's 4, and so we're using 4 of the 6 that are allowed under this plan, which is $99.99 a month. So I just wanted to cover that in case anyone had any questions on how to purchase it. But it is extremely, extremely helpful if you're going to be running a small business, or if you're going to be doing any type of organizing, like a budget or something like that. It can be extremely helpful for you. So let's go ahead and we're going to look at, let me just move this over. We're going to go ahead and look at Microsoft Excel. So this is Excel here at the bottom. You can see it's the green button here, and it has the X. If you don't have it down here on your toolbar, you can also find it on a Windows computer by searching here and just type in EXCEL. And here it is right here. You can just click it and it'll open up. And here it is. And just I'm going to click on blank workbook. So as you can see, it opens up. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger here so you guys can see it. And I'm also going to bring this over so you guys can see what we previously did. So because we're going to turn this here, this table, into an Excel spreadsheet. So here, first of all, before we create the table, I just want to kind of orient you to Microsoft Excel. So this is the worksheet here. You can see we are on sheet 1. You can have multiple sheets, and this combined, when you have multiple sheets, you can see if I hit plus here, it can add sheets. So I could just have a bunch of information here. Let's say we had budget 1 here on sheet 4. I could have a completely different group of information here. I could have maybe a calendar here. And maybe we have something like a timesheet here for logging in and out of work, right? So you can use all of these as different sheets, but they all combined, all of these sheets make a workbook. And a workbook, again, can have links between the different sheets and so forth. And we'll get to that in some future lessons. But starting at the top, up here, we have our quick access toolbar. For those of you who attended our Microsoft Word classes, you remember that. So this is our quick access toolbar here at the top. This is always there. So as I go across, notice here, if you guys remember from Word, this is the ribbon area. As I switch to different menus here, home menu, the insert menu, I get a different ribbon, right? Page layout, formulas, etc. We get a different layout here, but this quick access toolbar, I want you to note that it always stays at the top, okay? And in this particular one, for me, I have a save button and I have an undo button. If I wanted to add additional buttons here at the top, I could just come to this little down arrow here in the quick access toolbar, and I could add these things. So if I wanted to be able to print very quickly, I could just add that there. If I wanted to make a new document easily, and maybe if I wanted to sort things in ascending order, I can just add those here. And again, as I move along to different menus and different ribbons, it doesn't go away, which is really nice. So that's the quick access toolbar at the top. Here just below it, as I previously said, this is the ribbon. So as you go between the home menu and the insert menu, you're going to get a ton of different options here in the ribbon, and they change depending on the menu that you're in. Most of you are probably familiar with the home ribbon here, where you can see that you can like make things bold and you can adjust the font, you can adjust alignment numbers. It looks very similar to what we did in Microsoft Word, right? Okay, and then here is your work area here. This is your formula bar, so we'll look at that in a little bit, and you'll see what that's used for. The first thing I want to start with is just a little bit of an introduction to how information is organized. Similarly, how we have it set up here on this table is very similar. So here we have column A. So this is a column again, going up and down. So column A, column B, column C, etc. And then we have our rows, row 1, row 2, row 3. So where a row and a column intersect is called a cell. So I am right now, this is my active cell. And if I start typing, this is where the information would go. So if I put in a number, the information goes wherever that green box is around the cell. And so this particular cell that we're looking at is cell D4. And notice that's where D, so it's where column D intersects with row 4. And you can also tell that because it'll tell you up here in the left-hand side, so D4. So again, if I go down here, notice it changes to D9. If I go up here, it changes to G1. And so that is your active cell locator. It'll tell you, where you're at. So that if you're way down on the page somewhere, you're not sure, you can always look up here and see you're on M152 in this case, okay? Are there any questions about columns and rows before we keep going? Okay. As you again can see down here, we have different sheets. One of the ways to keep the sheets organized is based on what it's about, right? So in this case, if this sheet is going to be about a timesheet, like where you keep track of you coming to work and leaving work, you can actually right click where instead of it being sheet 1, we can right click here and we can rename this sheet, and let's call this one timesheet. So I just typed it in and hit enter, and it changes the name of this sheet to timesheet. Same thing here. Let's go look at sheet 2, calendar. So this would be one where we might write up a calendar, like, maybe we have kids and we're trying to get organized and let the kids know what's going on every day. We got school pickup, we got this activity, this is where we're going to eat for dinner, this is what time bedtime is, et cetera. Right. So you can do that in here. So let's make a calendar here. Go on to sheet 3. This would be budget 2. So I'm going to right click and hit rename and call it budget 2. And then lastly on this one, budget 1, right? So you can already see how you can hold a lot of information in a Microsoft Excel workbook, because you can have multiple different related projects all going at the same time. And they can even talk to each other, and we'll get to that into a later lesson, but you can link things from your timesheet to your calendar, or from one budget to another budget, for instance, right? Because maybe you have a budget for the year, and then maybe you have a budget for each month, and you can relate that monthly budget to your yearly budget. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and create the sheet that we started with. So over here, just move this so you guys can see it. All right, here we go. So over here, we started by making this sheet. So we're going to start in A1. Again, I know I'm in A1 because I've got the green box around it, which tells me this is my active cell. Your active cell, again, being if you start typing, that's where the information and the data is going to go. So I'm going to start typing here. I'm just going to type name. And I'm going to bring up my keyboard so you guys can see a little bit of what I'm doing here. So I'm going to just bring this down here. So I'm just making this first row. This first row is just the titles, right? So I wrote name, and I want you to see how I got to the next one over. So to go to the right for wake up time, I can hit tab. And then I can type wake up time. Space. Up. Time. And then again, once I'm done, I can hit tab, and then it's going to take me to the next one. Let's do breakfast. Oh, breakfast. And I'm going to hit tab one more time. And then we're going to put in number of classes. Okay. So there we go. So we've got the first row in. I used the tab button to get over to here. And then once you've used tab, well, this is one of the fun things about Microsoft Excel. When I hit enter, it knows that I'd likely want to go back over to A2 and start entering additional information. So watch what happens when I hit enter. It's not just going to go down to D2. It's probably, and it should go back to A2. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So I hit enter and it goes back over here so I can start entering information. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and write Linda's information. So Linda. Again, how do I get to the right? How do I move one to the right without using my mouse? Tab. Yeah, tab. Yep. And then I'm going to put 5, tab, 1. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 5, 1, and 10. And then how do I get back down to A3? Do I have to pick my mouse up and click on A3, or can I just hit enter and it'll come back down over here?
Enter.
Yeah, hit enter and see it's kind of flowing with me now, right? So let's do Asha, tab, 7, tab, 0, tab, 5. Okay, going to hit enter. And Bernadetta. Tab, 8, tab, 0, tab, 6. Okay. in this case now, I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to hit enter. Let me shrink this just a little bit so we can all see. Okay. So in this case, now we have 6 for Bernadetta for her number of classes. So I'm going to hit enter and it went ahead down, right? But sometimes I don't want it to do that. So you can also, to move around the spreadsheet, you can also use your arrows that are on your keyboard, right? So we have the up arrow, the down arrow, the left and the right. So notice where I'm at. I'm in D4. So to get to A5 for the next row, I can just hit down. And then I can also use my arrows to move around. Okay. So let's go ahead and who's up next? We got Rebecca. A K, where's K? AKA. Becca. Okay. Tab 6. Tab 1. Tab 5. I'm going to hit enter and do this last one. Tab 9. Tab 1. Tab 3. Hit enter. Okay. So now we have our spreadsheet done here. And notice a couple things. What do you guys notice about this table as we're looking at it together? Is there anything look off? I'm kind of make it a little bigger so you guys can see. How does it look to you all?
The wake up time, it's a bit hidden.
Yeah, it kind of ran out of space, right?
Yep.
It ran out of space. We can't see it. Breakfast is here. We can see number of classes kind of ran off into column E here. And so there's a couple things that you can do to adjust the column width, right? So again, this column A, B, C, and D. So we have columns here between these 4. We can see that column B isn't quite wide enough for the title. Also, if you notice in column A, what happened to our names? Did some of them get cut off?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the width of the column is not big enough. Right now, the quick way to check your width of your columns is you can come here and as you come and you move your mouse right in between A and B, you don't have to click anything. You can just move the mouse right in between A and B. And did you see what happened to my mouse when I get it over that line? It turns into a plus sign. So as it turns into that plus sign, that's telling me that I can start to size the column. So to size it, the first thing you do is just click and notice it says the current width of this column is 8.43. Let's go look at B. So it's always telling me that, by the way, the width of the column to the left of so when I click here, it's telling me the width of column A is 8.43. If I come over here and I do the same thing, it's telling me the width of column B is 8.43. Same thing here. If I go to column C, 8.43, and then same thing here is column D is also 8.43. So there's a couple things we can do in a couple different ways to size it. The easiest way to do it is we can simply, when our mouse changes to the plus sign here, you can just click and hold and just bring it out and release it when you think it's long enough. See, we still cut off Becca's name a little bit. So we need a little bit more space. So I come back up here, I click, hold, and I just move it out to the right and release. Now we have enough space for all of the names. So we want to do that a couple times until everything fits. I'm going to do the same thing with wake up time. Breakfast looks okay. And then it looks like number of classes, we need to do the same thing. So I'm just going to bring it on out. Okay. So now it's starting to look a little bit more like the table that we had here. One thing that we notice here is that the letters here are in the far left part of the box. Here, my numbers and so forth are off to the right. So that's something that we'll look at in a little bit. So we've got our information. Who can tell me what cell am I in right now? What's my active cell?
D6.
Yeah, D6. And we know that because that's where D and 6 intersect. Perfect. And then the active cell, of course, is where we type at and add data. So let's go ahead and do a couple things just to get this all cleaned up. I'm going to just spread this out just a little bit so we can see our menu up here. So as you guys remember from Microsoft Word, when we're in our home menu, this is what our ribbon is going to look like. So we have our cut, copy, paste options over here. And then we have our font right here, and we have some alignment things right here. So I actually want to make this look a little bit cleaner. Right now it looks, it's okay, but I think it could look a little bit better. Okay. So I'm just going to go here. And again, when we highlight and we want to change text, we just want to highlight really quick. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of background color. I'm just going to use yellow. Well, actually, let's see what do we got. Let's go with like a dark green, and again highlight again, and let's change the text color. Let's go with white, and then let's make it bold, and let's choose a different font for the titles. Now notice what happened. It changed again. It got bigger. And so now I have to resize the columns again because it looks like a couple things ran off and they didn't have enough space. So I didn't show you this earlier. A second way that you can expand your columns is if you just simply double click on that area instead of clicking and dragging, you can also just double click and it'll auto size, double click, auto size, and then again, double click just to get that auto size. And so when you auto size, it will ensure that the column is wide enough for whatever the widest entry in that column is. So you got plenty of space here. We're just working with a couple rows and a couple columns, so no problem expanding it. Okay. So now that we've done that, we have our numbers here. We've got a nice little table starting to come along. We have our names over here. And so this is where it gets to be a little bit of fun because now we can start to use Microsoft Excel to do some things that we weren't able to do in some of the other programs. It'll do math for us, for instance. Also, someone asked the other day, what if I wanted to add a column in here? If you wanted to add a column, you can just simply right click on D, or it could be any column, but the column's always going to insert to the left. So I could just right click on D and hit insert, and it inserts a column to the left of wherever we are. I didn't quite hear you, Margaret. I'm sorry.
That's what they do. That's how they survive. Because they don't know when you go out, but they always think you're hunting them and bring back nothing. But they don't.
Margaret, I didn't quite hear you. Are you talking to me, Margaret? I didn't understand you, if you are.
But they bring you food because they think you're pregnant. So when my cat brings whatever, I'm like, oh, thank you. And our pet brings.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't quite hear her. I'm not sure if she's talking to me or not. So I can also delete a column here, and I can just right click and hit delete. So I can get rid of column D in the same way. So there we go. We got rid of column D. Okay. If you want to highlight again, if we wanted to change all the text, or if we maybe wanted to add some borders in here, we could completely do that. So you see how there's some pretty defined borders here around the text to create this table. So these light borders aren't really borders. They're just there for reference. But if I wanted those borders to print, I could just highlight all of the text. And then I could just come up here to this one here. And it says bottom border, and we can just select all borders right here. This option here will give me some borders. So see, now we have borders in between the columns and the rows. So it's a little bit more defined. And when you print this, it'll actually show up these borders. If we didn't add those borders, it would not print the borders. It would just look like, words on a page without the lines and so forth. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is just do some pretty simple math. So this is, again, probably the best thing that Microsoft Excel can do. So right here, we have our wake up time. So we had Linda wake up at 5, we had Asha wake up at 7, 8, 6, and a 9. So if I was to ask you what was the average wake up time of everyone this morning, who could tell me in less than 5 seconds?
Seven.
5 or 6.
I heard somebody say 7. Is it 7? I think it might be right. It's a little bit hard to say. What about the number of classes? What's the average number of classes folks are taking based on the few that we have here on the Excel spreadsheet? Off the top of your head.
29.
It's so that would be the sum is 29 or so. But what would be the average if someone said, well, oh, so the people attending your class, what's the average number of classes they've taken with you? That could take some time, especially imagine that you had hundreds of people attending your classes. We've had hundreds of people attend these classes that we're doing over the last year or so. And I actually have a spreadsheet where I keep track of everyone's attendance. So if someone ever asked me and said, "Hey, well, what's the average student? How many classes have they attended?" I have it on a spreadsheet, and I could easily calculate that. So we're going to go ahead and do some calculation now. So there's an easy way to do it and a more complicated. We're going to do the easy way today. So let's say I wanted to get the average wake up time. Well, actually, let's do this one first. Number of classes over here. This one's going to be pretty easy. So let's say we wanted to add up all of the data entry here, and we wanted to see a couple things. We wanted to see what was the average number of classes each person was taking, and then what was the total number of classes that are being taken. So notice as I select, first of all, there's a little bit of information that pops up down here. And you can see that it shows that, sorry. So as I select it, it shows that how many rows have I selected? You see it right here? 5. So I've selected 5 rows. What is the sum or the total of those 5 rows? It's 29.
29.
And then what is the average? So how do we get average, right? Sum divided by the count. So at a quick calculation, Excel can already tell me just by me highlighting the information, it can tell me that the sum is 29, there's 5 records, and therefore the average is 5.8 classes. Okay, so that's an easy way to do it is just by highlighting. You can just highlight the information. Another way to actually have it do the calculation is to come here to the bottom of the column. So right here at the bottom, we put our active cell here at D7, which is right below where the information's at. And then an easy way to calculate sum is to just use this tool up here. It looks like a big E. It's like a sigma E. And if I just click that, see, it writes a formula for us here. And I'll kind of decipher this formula for us. It says sum. So first of all, it says equals. So anytime in Excel you start with equals, that means you're about to tell Excel to perform a mathematical function. Okay, so that's important. If you type equals, it's assuming you're about to ask it to do some math. Okay, and so in this case, we said equals sum. Sum obviously stands for summary, or to addition in this case. And so we're summing D2. Where's D2 at? Right here, right? D2 to D6. So we're doing equals. So what we're saying here is, let me escape here again, is we're saying in this cell is going to equal the sum of these 5 entries. So again, if I come here, put my active cell here, I come up and I hit equals, and I use the sum function. It does equals sum of D2 to D6. So this is what we call the range, right? So this is the function, the first part, and this is how you write formulas in Excel. You always start with equals, and then you tell it the function that you want to do. So sum, average, mean, min, max, whatever it is that you want to do. And don't worry, we'll review all of these. We have plenty of time to do it. But right now, we'll just do an equals sum. And then this is the range, D2 to D6. And you just hit enter. And there is our sum, 29. Okay. How many people ate breakfast? Again, this is easy to see because we only did 5 entries. But imagine you had, a school survey of all the students in a school. There might be, 500 to 1,000 students, maybe more. You're not going to just look at it and add it. You have to use a computer to add that up so that you can figure out what percentage of our students are eating breakfast in the morning. And I know that teachers care about this because our teachers at our school just emailed us the other day and said, please feed your kids protein in the morning so they don't get tired in the first hour of school. No like cereal and donuts and things like that. Right. And so here again, if we wanted to sum to find out how many people ate breakfast, and again, just imagine this list is much longer, but because the function works the same, we come here to our active cell. We come up to the E, we click sum, and it sums it for us, and we hit enter. It looks like 3 people ate breakfast. And then for average, and here we don't want to add up the times that people woke up, right? If we're going to get some crazy big number. But here we're curious, what is the average time of wake ups this morning? So I think there's a function over here. Let's do the same thing. But instead of this time clicking it, I'm going to actually click this arrow off to the right and see if, oh, there it is. See, it has average. So what is the average time of wake up this morning? So now it writes the formula for us. So by the way, this is just a little cheater here to write simple formulas. As we get more advanced, I would teach you guys to write these formulas on your own without the assistance of this. But it's nice to have this when you just need a quick sum or a quick average or a max or a min. So it wrote the formula for us, and it is equals average, average being the function. And then what is this called? Anybody remember what I called B2 to B6? What is that called?
The range.
Yeah, that's the range. Exactly. So it's just saying that it's going to summarize B2 to B6. So I hit enter. And it looks like the average wake up time was 7 o'clock. Okay. All right. So let's do another function. I'm just going to do a sum. And this is just for purposes of just showing you guys how it works. I'm going to actually sum all of these values. Okay. So does anyone want to attempt to show me how to do a sum of B2 to D6? And we'll do it right here in this cell. Anyone want to try writing that formula? What does it start with? Why don't we do it together? How do you start a formula?
Equal.
Equals. And then we want to sum. So how do you write a sum formula? Do you remember the function? Equals what? Is it sum? Is it average, mean, or min?
Sum.
Equal sum.
Yep, equals sum.
Mhm.
And then we want to do parentheses because now, and this is just if you guys remember like 8th grade math, right? We have to use our parentheses. So now we want to do our open parentheses because we need to tell it the range of cells that I want it to add up. So if I want to add up all of these cells, all the ones that have numbers in them, what are the
Yes, you can
cells?
highlight
What are
them.
the cells? I can highlight them. Can
Mhm.
anybody tell me what they are? What's the top left one? So normally you start top left and then you go to bottom right. So what would be the cell range if I want to add up everything from 5 all the way down to 3? So 5 down and then over to 3.
B
B2.
to D6.
B2 colon D, what was it, D6? Yep. See how it highlights it there for you, by the way? So it's confirming for you, sorry, there we go. So it's confirming for you that, hey, I think that you're saying that you want me to add up B5 to to D6, and it puts it in blue. It kind of highlights it for you. So it's easy to see. If that's what you want, you can just put in that closed parenthesis. So we did equal sum B2 to D6, hit enter, and there it does the math for you. Pretty smooth. I don't know about you guys. That's exciting. So imagine that you have a big budget. You constantly maybe are running a business and there's constantly money coming in and out. This is an easy way to see the money coming in and the expenses going out. And what's really fun about it is, let's say I went back and Linda said, oh, actually, no, I've been to 17 classes. Okay. Some people, like in the old days, we'd be like, oh no, we got to recalculate everything. That's not a problem. We come here, we change her to 17. So I just moved up here, moved my active cell to D2, where Linda's classes are. I'm going to type 17, hit enter. Notice that it changed the numbers. This automatically changed to 36, and this automatically changed to 74. So as you change the numbers that are feeding the formula will update automatically.
Very
That's amazing.
cool.
It
Very, very
is.
cool.
It makes your life really easy. So as people say, oh no, Asha's like, actually, no, I woke up at 6, no problem. Come back here, hit 6, it changes everything. Right? Margaret said, oh, actually, no, I didn't eat breakfast. 0, enter, it changes the numbers for us. Okay. Rebecca comes back and says, oh, actually, I've been to 150 classes. No problem. 150, everything updates. Okay. This is the power of Excel. It will save you a ton of time when you're doing math and dealing with business or any type of large data set. Normally can be organized into a spreadsheet, right? Imagine you're building a house and you need a budget for the house, right? You would probably do something like this. You would say, okay, so it's going to cost, the foundation is going to cost this much. The wood is going to cost this much. Getting the driveway done is going to cost this much. The landscaping is going to cost this much. Electrical, plumbing, fire suppression. And these are all the things you talk to and you get estimates from someone, and someone puts it on a spreadsheet and they put in all the numbers. Let's add a couple more things. We got plumbing, electrical, landscaping, septic, because you live in the country, like I like to live in the country. So let's say this is your budget, and your budget is, let's say your budget is 600 grand. I'm going to make this money really quick. I'll just highlight it and do the little money sign here. And then you start to just say, okay, so the foundation, I mistyped that, foundation. So the foundation is going to cost, let's say, minus 50,000. And then the wood is going to be 30,000. The driveway is going to be 67.5 because you got a quote. Landscaping is going to be 15,000. Electrical, they're going to get you for 68,900. Plumbing, you're expecting to be for your house 42,350 was the quote you got. Fire suppression system is going to be 25,000. And then septic is going to be let's say 19,000. 654 is the quote you got. So what's interesting in Excel is it'll do the math for you, because maybe you've determined that, hey, you want to have a 100 grand left over out of your budget. so that you can buy furniture and do just some sprucing up, get the blinds, all the little things you have to do when you move into your house. So the question is just really quick. And again, if you had a really big budget because you're truly building, you might have 30 or 40 line items here. But really quickly, though, you can just sum this. Notice that I put negative 50. I put negative for all of these because they're subtracting from the available amount of 600,000. Sorry, zoom in for you guys so y'all can see a little better. So this is our green. And then this is our expenses. So the question is, how much is left over? Do I have the 100 grand left over so I can, when we move in, have the money to furnish the place, right? Or are we over budget? So again, how would I write a formula? And it's no different than what we already did. Who can help me write a formula to sum 600,000 minus these things? And actually, we don't even have to do minus. I'll just write it because it'll be easy. So equal sum, open parenthesis, and then we can just highlight this. Close parenthesis. And I hit enter, and yes, you have $281,000, 596 cents left. Or I'm sorry, $281,596 left after paying those expenses. So again, Excel's just really nice. And what's nice is you can kind of shop around and maybe you get a different quote and somebody said they can do it for 50. So you're like, oh, I'm going to go back in and adjust our budget and see what is left over. Oh, now we got $299 left over. Maybe we don't have to take out a $600,000 loan. Maybe now we can just get a $400,000 loan because it's less interest, and then we still have a $999,000 left over to furnish the house. So you see how Excel can help you make informed decisions, and it can help you do it quickly because you don't have to like write it down on a piece of paper and use your calculator on your phone to do the math. Excel can do it for you. And obviously, just like Microsoft Word, you can print things out and you can share this information. You can collaborate in Excel with other people. So this is our intro to Microsoft Excel, right? So we talked a little bit about what are the difference between columns and rows. We talked about identifying the active cell. In this case, we're in E8, right? We talked about some quick formulas, right? And up here again is your formula bar. So as we wrote that formula here, notice that it came up here also. So you can adjust your formulas from up here, or you can write it in the cell. And we talked about having multiple spreadsheets. Anybody remember what multiple spreadsheets combined? What do we call that? Like we have multiple spreadsheets here. What do we call this entire thing?
A spreadsheet,
A workbook, actually.
a workbook.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a spreadsheet. That this one tab is a spreadsheet. So we have 4 spreadsheets in this workbook.
Workbook, okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So you see here, like when you click blank, most people call Microsoft Excel like it's a spreadsheet software. It's actually a workbook software, which is why it says blank workbook, because a workbook means you can have multiple spreadsheets. Okay. And I won't get into it today, but like we could bring this math. Let's say you had a bigger budget to like build maybe 5 homes, and this was the budget for 1 home. You could bring this 99,000 over into a different budget and then start to calculate and have multiple spreadsheets linked together. And so we'll look at that in a future class. Are there any questions? I want to leave a few minutes for Q&A before we do a quick review.
Eric, can you show us that spreadsheet or the workbook for the construction?
Right here.
So you've got you've got the budget. So you just added up B2 to B9.
I did, yeah.
Okay,
So you can see
okay,
some
okay.
B1, and I can do that because I put these as negative numbers, right? So that's why I can sum it. So if we did, let's say we did it the way that most people would maybe do a budget. If they weren't used to Excel, they might say, oh, that's 50,000, that's 30,000, that's 50. And this one's going to look, oh, not 500. This is going to look more like what your teenagers are doing in high school when I do this one, 68,900,
Oh,
42,350. So see that the numbers I'm writing though are positive right now, right?
okay.
19,654. So there's two ways to do it. So you can either make like expenses a negative number, so then you can just sum, right? Because it's just saying 40,000 positive plus a negative 50,000, right? Plus a 30, negative 30, right? It sums to this. The other way to do it is, and this is a little bit more complicated, but I'll show you guys just so you know that you can do it, is I could say equals the 400,000
Mm-hmm.
minus the sum of these.
Okay, yeah, that's a little more
Close
complicated.
parenthesis. Right, and it gets the same value, right? Because I'm having to sum these together and then
Right.
minus them from the big number.
So quick question, by putting the parentheses in B2 to B9,
Here.
that means negative.
So it does that automatically. When I just hit negative. So when you put in a value,
okay,
if you put in
okay.
if you
Okay.
just type 40,000 or 400,000, it just comes in like that. If I type negative 50,000,
Okay.
it automatically puts those brackets around
Oh,
it,
got
just to
it.
tell you that that's a negative number.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
See,
Thank you.
negative. So all I'm doing is putting in the negative. It puts the parentheses around it for me. And notice as I'm doing this, guys, watch how the calculator is changing. 42,350 minus 25,000 minus 19,654. Oh, and there we go. We got the same number. We got there in two different ways. This is the more simplified way, is to when you're dealing with, income versus expenses. I just have learned to just do my expenses and put a negative, because that's money that's going out. If money's coming in, I just make it a positive, and then it's easy to just summarize it, right?
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Obviously here, this is very similar to what we did in Microsoft Word, right? You could just highlight to change text and font and things like that. Oh, one other thing I did want to do is I wanted to align everything to the left. So I can just highlight, come here to alignment. And as you guys remember from Microsoft Word, we can just align left. Really easy, no problem. You also probably noticed that I made these like money. So if we're dealing with money here, you just come here and hit this one. You can also move the decimal using this. So if we just wanted whole numbers, we didn't want the cents, I could just hit this twice, and now we're just dealing with whole numbers. If you're dealing with something that's very exact, you might want a lot of decimal points, 5, 6, 7 decimal points, right? But normally if we're dealing with money, 2 decimal points. Okay, we covered a lot today. There's a lot in Excel, and we'll continue to do that. Let's do a quick review and see if we can answer these questions together. So using the words below, so we have the word active cell, the word row, and the word column. So let's look at these together and which one is which. So active cell, is this an active cell? Is this an active cell, or this? Which one of these depicts an active cell?
The last one.
This one over here, right? And what about a row? Is this a row going left to right, or does a row go up and down?
Left and right.
Right.
And then finally, a column, as we know, goes up and down, right? And let's see, it says answer the questions about the picture below. So let's answer these together, and then we'll call it a night. What's in cell B2?
6 a.m.
What cell is the word cereal in?
C2.
C2. Yeah. And then what is described in row 3?
7 a.m.
Right, but what is all of row 3 is describing essentially who?
John.
Well,
Arjan. Yeah,
John, yeah,
Arjan's wake up
and
time
breakfast.
and his breakfast.
his breakfast, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So you see how spreadsheets can be very efficient. Again, like imagine that a school took a survey and they were trying to understand, what time are their kids waking up and what time and are the kids getting a meal before they leave the house. So let's say they did a survey, you might have thousands of rows in a spreadsheet with all of the kids' answers. You're not going to just add that up manually. You're going to have that go into a spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet's going to tell you, oh, okay, yeah, 80%, and we didn't do this today, but it can tell you percentages. You can say how many people said yes, they had breakfast. It'll tell you 80%, 30%. What's the average wake up time? And it'll tell you, oh, the average wake up time of your kids based on this survey of 1,000 people is X, right? So it's a very powerful tool that gives you some insight, and you can get that insight really quickly once the information's in the spreadsheet. So we're almost at time. Great job today. Hopefully you guys learned something. Do you guys see the benefit of being able to work in spreadsheets? Are you all excited?
I am, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, spreadsheets are really fun. You could do so much. You can even chart things. So you can start to make graphs. We can make charts, pie charts, and that's all stuff that we'll look at in the next coming weeks. So that's it for today, guys. Hopefully this helped, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.